Every Bahamas trip begins with a weather forecast. As the 10-day outlook turns into the 3-day forecast, the weatherman's predictions become more accurate. It's like counting down the days until Christmas, with each new forecast from NOAA offering a guess at what you're gonna get. And no matter how technologically advanced we get, the forecast is never more than that, just a guess. When the waves turn from bad to worse, all I hope for is to reach the halfway point. Once there, continuing forward seems better than turning back, and I know we won't be calling the trip off. On this trip, we're making the 100-mile ocean crossing with my buddy Tyler, his family, and my brother Justin. We're on Tyler's 37-foot CV, which handles the rough weather well, but the summer storms are trying their best to keep us in the States. After a rough crossing, we finally made it to the Bahamas, cleared customs, and checked into our hotel. We did it. We made it. We spent the rest of the first day just recovering from the rough crossing and prepared for the next few days. The weather was supposed to dramatically improve, but after what we had just been through, we had our doubts. The next morning, we got up early to make a run to a new area around 50 miles from our hotel. The weather was incredibly calm, almost as if yesterday had been a bad dream. If you've been following along with me this summer, you know that I've been on the hunt for an African Pompano with a Polespear. These fish are incredibly good to eat, and they're a true challenge to find in the Bahamas during the summer months. These elusive fish have haunted me for the last 5 trips we've made over here, ever since I missed the first one I even saw in the Bahamas. Every time I've had a shot, I've come up empty-handed. As we rode out to dive for the day, I was wondering if this was going to be the trip that I got to cross this challenge off the list. We started diving in some very shallow areas, both to explore new spots and to warm up. Justin spots this nice-sized mangrove snapper and makes a drop. While these fish don't get huge, they are great to eat, and the bigger ones are a challenge to shoot with a Polespear. Justin lays on the bottom and grunts to try to attract the mangrove snapper. Once he picks out a fish he wants, he tries to close the distance to get a good holding shot in the fish.
Nice mango. Gotta get something to warm up on.
Justin spots this nice hogfish and takes a drop. This year we haven't been seeing too many hogs, so Justin wanted to secure this one for ceviche. All of the action brought in quite a few sharks, so Justin was eager to get the fish in the boat.
Take this shit, hurry.
Tyler's dad spots another nice hogfish, and he takes a drop. Hogfish are a staple of Bahamas trips because they're usually easy to shoot and they taste great. We're only allowed to bring home 1 hogfish per person, so we usually try to eat the first few that we get while we're over here in the Bahamas.
Jim got a nice one.
Couple of nice sized hogs. Better than the last few trips. This is actually the first trip we've gotten some nice hogs. Another one. We came across this nice coral head, and we could see a big mutton snapper sitting right on top of the rock. Usually these fish like to hang out around the outskirts of reefs, so it's pretty rare to see one staying so close to this coral head. It's also normally difficult to close the distance to nice-sized mutton snapper like this, especially in shallow water, but Justin was able to swim right up to this fish and land a great shot. Another strange thing about this fish is that it was covered in scars, almost as if it had been scraped up against the coral rock. It could have something to do with the spawn, but normally these fish spawn in open water rather than in coral heads like this. If you have any idea what this was, let me know in the comments below. I spot this really good looking cave, and I get ready to take a drop to investigate. When you're over here in the Bahamas, any little cave can hold a nice sized fish, so it's worth taking a drop every time you come across one. When checking a hole like this, you always need to have your Polespear ready to shoot. If you do spot a nice fish, you won't have enough time to reach back and load the spear before the fish gets away. As I roll the edge of this cave, at first I don't see anything, and then this nice mutton snapper swims out, and quickly before he gets further into the cave, I'm able to get a shot in the fish. So we come across another isolated head, and just like the last one we found, there is a really nice mutton snapper sitting right on top of the head. And for whatever reason on this day, these fish were right in these large rocks. And the good thing is it made them very easy to shoot. You can see this one here just stayed right there and let me get nice and close to get a good holding shot in the fish. And just like the last mutton we got, this fish also had some weird scars near the tail. I'm not sure what exactly this is. It might have something to do with the spawn, but if you have any idea, let me know in the comments below. I'm super curious if anyone else has come across something like this before. We finished the first day with quite a few nice snapper, but we never came across the grouper or African Pompano we were targeting. We headed back to the island where we were staying, and we made a plan for the next day. The next morning, we decided to explore a new area that we had never been to before. It was a much longer run than the previous day, but we hoped that the distance would keep most other fishermen away. With fewer boats and less pressure, we anticipated finding both higher quantities and better quality fish. Before getting in, I double-checked my slip tip line. Last trip, I lost 2 really nice fish due to equipment failure, so on this trip, I switched over to wire slip tip line.
Alright, boys.
Only a few minutes after jumping in, I spot this African Pompano in the distance. And the first thing I do is I unclip my throw flasher from my belt and throw it towards the fish. The idea was the sparkling of the throw flasher should attract the African Pompano. I watched the throw flasher sink, then made a drop, kind of away from the throw flasher so that I wouldn't spook the African Pompano. When I turned my head to see if he was coming to the throw flasher, I didn't see him at first, so my gut instinct was to go to the bottom and kind of do some grunting to see if it'll attract the fish. Unfortunately, this time it just didn't work, and I watched my throw flasher sink all the way to the bottom, and I swim that way to pick it up so I have it again for my next dive. The water's a little bit dirty, but Justin can just make out the silhouette of 2 African Pompano in the distance. He starts to breathe up to take a drop when he sees Tyler off in the distance is already on a dive swimming towards the fish. Tyler lands an awesome shot in the spine of the fish.
Wow! Hell yeah! Hell yeah! Let's go, help me get this thing.
While it wasn't the biggest African Pompano, it was Tyler's first ever, and landing it with a Polespear was a huge accomplishment. I'd be lying if I said watching him bring that fish in wasn't bittersweet.
we could only legally bring home 2 African Pompano, and Justin and I were both anxious to land our first one with a Polespear now that we found a spot that actually had a few around. The next person to land one would finally get their African Pompano with a Polespear, and the other would likely have to wait until our next Bahamas trip just to get another shot at one.
3 of them were kind of circling down to the bottom. I made a dive, go down and see if I can get close to them. Swimming around the first time, came pretty close, but I wasn't confident in the shot on the Polespear. Turned around to come back up, and right as I was coming back up, they kind of started to come back in, and I kind of made a quick turn to go down and was able to get right on him, lined it up, and spined him. So that was pretty cool.
First AP, baby. How do you feel, Justin?
He missed the first one. Don't let him fool you.
We got back in the water to see if we could land one more African Pompano, and I came across this huge ball of bait. I made a drop straight to the bottom and started grunting to try to see if I could attract one of those African Pompano, and unfortunately, I attract something else. All of the blood and thrashing from Tyler's African Pompano likely attracted a bunch of sharks to this spot, so we were a little bit anxious about shooting another fish that would put up more of a fight, because we could potentially lose the fish to the sharks. I make another drop to the bottom, and I'm greeted by a bunch of small mangrove snapper. I keep looking around off in the distance, hoping to see an African Pompano, and I'm grunting my heart out again to see if I can do anything to attract them. As I turn to my right, I see 2 really nice African Pompano and begin grunting like crazy while trying to orient my body in the right direction to get a shot if they turn back my way. And fortunately, they do just that. I land a great shot in the fish, but my belt reel gets tangled up and the fish starts taking me for a ride. This is not an ideal situation, especially with sharks around, but I'm able to get the line free and head for the surface. Justin takes a drop to try to put his second shot in the fish, and as he's going down, he spots that nice sized shark off in the distance, thinking about coming in to try to steal our catch. Justin knows he needs to land a good holding shot in this fish so that we can horse it up to the surface before the shark gets a little too aggressive. With 2 Polespears in the fish, Justin is able to swim straight to the surface and hand off his Polespear to the boat so that I can get my line untangled and we can pull the fish in without having to worry about the shark.
You get it in.
Something I wanted to point out is that these fish swam right under Justin to get to me, and he didn't take a drop because I was already on the bottom and had the best opportunity. Justin knew that if I landed the fish, he wouldn't be able to land one of his own, and he still held back to let me have the opportunity. Being able to let the person who has the best chance take a shot, even if it means you won't be able to yourself, is a characteristic of a great dive buddy. This is a team-based sport, and landing a nice fish is always a group effort. Justin could have left me to fight this fish on my own, but instead, he put a second shot in the fish to help me keep it away from the sharks. With all of that said though, he wasn't exactly happy about the situation. Alright guys, finally, after like 4 trips,
Asshole.
landed my first AP with a Polespear. About an hour after Tyler.
He wouldn't have if it wasn't for my second shot.
Probably don't want to spend too much more time here. Sharks are a little friendly, but we'll see. After so many close calls and near misses, it felt great to finally land one of these fish with a Polespear. But I also wanted to see Justin get on a nice fish too. We moved out to some deeper water and Justin made a drop when he saw this nice Cubera snapper. It is just incredible how fast this fish's reaction time was. This fish had moved completely out of the way of Justin's shot in a fraction of a second. The good news was that the cubera wasn't the only really nice fish on this reef. I slowly try to glide down to this black grouper and extend my arm to get ready for the shot. The grouper turns broadside, and just before I let go of the Polespear, he just shoots out ahead of me, and I didn't feel great about the shot, so I decided to let him go. I was hoping he was going to pop out on the other side of these rocks, but he had other plans. We drifted off the main reef and into these more isolated patches, and that's when Tyler came across this nice size hogfish. We moved in a bit shallower to about 40 feet of water, and we came across this small ledge that was absolutely full of lobster. In the Bahamas, you are allowed 10 lobster per boat per day, and you're also allowed to spear lobster with a pole spear. It makes the process a lot more convenient, but most of the time, we don't really find it necessary because we're so used to catching them by hand over in the United States. The goal was to get just enough lobster for dinner. We already had plenty of lobster back home and really didn't need to take too many. I made a drop and took my time with my flashlight to try to find the biggest lobster in the rock. One of the things that the Bahamas is known for is their huge lobster, and this one was way back up in this cave and really gave me a bit of a fight to try to get him out. We hop in at a new spot, and as soon as the bubbles clear, we see this nice sized black grouper sitting on the bottom. There wasn't much structure for this grouper to hide in right here, so the name of the game is to pretty much just slowly follow the fish, never letting it get out of your sight. This fish knows that it has a place that it can hide somewhere nearby. We follow the fish for what feels like an hour until we finally get to a rock that was big enough to hold him. I know that we're only going to get one good shot at this fish before he potentially shoots out the back of this rock, so I take my flashlight off my wrist and hand it to Justin. I position myself on the far side of the ledge, just in case the grouper has a chance to shoot out before Justin can land a shot in it. Justin gets a shot in the grouper, and I can see him on the bottom struggling to hang on to the Polespear as the grouper tries to get deeper into the cave. Dust flies out everywhere, and I swim over top of Justin and take a couple of deep breaths to go down and help him out. Just as I make my drop, Justin lets go of the Polespear to come up for air, and as I go down and look, the grouper shoots through the ledge out on the other side and gets caught up on a rock. I quickly load my Polespear as fast as I can and get a good holding shot in the head of the fish.
Wow! There he is, boy! Yeah! Let's go!
Captain Jim put us right on him, jumped in, saw him sitting in a sand hole, followed him around for what seems like freaking an hour, but it was more like 5 minutes, and then he finally went into a hole. As soon as I saw him in that hole, man, I just freaking chuckled. I was like, oh, we got his ass now. He's not leaving. Derek passed me the light, because he shot his AP this morning. Ugh. I got my biggest black. Yeah, baby. Nice fish.
With a limit of African Pompano and a 44-pound black grouper in the boat, we had more than enough fish to call it a day. We packed up and headed in early, cleaned our fish, and talked about how incredible the day was. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by leaving a like, comment, or hitting subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.